Hello geospatial enthusiasts. NASA is looking for Star Trek-like tractor beam to control satellites. Trimble acquires 2 new companies. A study puts a number on Earth's tree population. Stay tuned for a lowdown on all this and more on today's GeoBytes. I'm your host Bhanureka. From the company that brought Back to the Future style hoverboard to life, here comes another biggie. ArcSpace has entered into a Space Act agreement with NASA to develop a technology to control tiny satellites in space. The device which NASA and ArcSpace will develop together will use a tether to hold a satellite at a distance, and that doesn't allow it to move away or towards the device. So one will be able to manipulate microsatellites without making physical contact with them. Now that's a technology that will blow even Marty McFly's mind. The partnership's focus on microsatellites reflects the growing role of CubeSats in the space industry. Companies like Planet Labs, Skybox Imaging and Spire are making big bucks by manufacturing small satellites. Richard Branson's company Virgin Galactic is working to place around 648 microsatellites into orbit over 39 launches. NASA's own CubeSat launch initiative also revolves around putting small satellite payloads on NASA rockets. Exciting times indeed. Here's another development from NASA. One of the 2 science instruments on NASA's soil moisture satellite has been declared broken after only 7 months of operation. The mission was launched in January to map global soil moisture and detect whether soils are frozen or thawed. The mission will, however, continue because the other functional science instrument, a radiometer, is still transmitting data. Earlier, the radar system enabled high resolution of about 5 miles for soil moisture, but now the resolution will decrease to 25 miles. Let's look at some business updates now. Once again, Trimble is on a buying spree. On Wednesday, the company announced not 1 but 2 acquisitions. The first company Trimble has acquired is a Norwegian BIM firm called Vianova Systems. Vianova is known for its applications like NovaPoint and Quadri, primarily used for design and asset management of road, rail, sea and air infrastructure. This takeover will help Trimble expand its civil engineering and infrastructure solutions. Trimble has also taken over Canada-based land management solution provider Spatial Dimension. Spatial Dimension's FlexiCadastre software has been deployed across hundreds of land management projects for clients like the World Bank and the United States Agency for International Development. Trimble did not disclose the financial terms of either of the deals. Moving on from acquisitions to partnerships, Spaceport America and ARCA Space Corporation are coming together for space launch vehicle and high-altitude drone testing. ARCA wants to manufacture innovative and affordable aerospace products. It is working on bridging the gap between military-grade unmanned aerial vehicles and civilian commercial drones and to facilitate space tourism. The company is looking at 20 launches each in low altitude, mid altitude and high altitude over the course of 8 months beginning this winter. Coming to another partnership, Synergis Engineering Design Solutions has joined forces with Leica Geosystems to expand its high-definition scanning footprint. Synergis is an Autodesk reseller in the Americas. The partnership will leverage point cloud data to optimize factory layouts for its clients, perform clash detection and assist with building design. This initiative will also provide crucial information for engineering design of building layout, mapping and renovation. Talking about Leica, here's another update from the company. Leica Geosystems has released Leica Velocity and Displacement Autonomous Solution Engine or VADACE. VADACE is touted as the world's first autonomous GNSS monitoring solution on board a standalone receiver. This monitoring solution can provide high-rate velocity and displacement information of various activities and structures to engineers in real time. Understanding structural movements enables professionals to take necessary actions to mitigate damages and potentially save lives. In another business development, Area 360, a beacon technology startup, has raised $3.5 million in Series A funding. The company's solutions target large and frequently visited locations like airports, hospitals, and museums. Area 360 makes use of beacons, GPS, Wi-Fi, and other technology to connect digital content to physical locations. Its client list includes the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, and the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco. German automakers Audi, BMW, and Daimler have gotten one step closer to acquiring Here Maps from Nokia. The Federal Trade Commission cleared the $2.8 billion deal on Wednesday, enabling the companies past the antitrust hurdle. The deal was announced 1 month ago. It gives each of the car makers an equal stake in Here. Analysts believe the deal underscores that the German automakers don't want to rely on technology giants like Google for self-driving systems. It's now time for a break, but don't go anywhere. We will see you on the other side with some interesting developments from the Americas.
Once again, Trimble is leading the way in positioning technology with the new Trimble R8S GNSS receiver. An entirely new way to look at receiver possibilities. Simply choose the configuration and features you require today. Then, add features as you need them tomorrow. It's the ultimate in scalability. With this innovative receiver, you tailor your system to your job, to the way you work. Choose the level of configuration that suits your needs. As your requirements change, the Trimble R8S can adapt. You simply add functionality whenever you want it. Each Trimble R8S comes standard with integrated Maxwell 6 chips, Trimble 360 tracking technology, and more. All to keep you productive and expand the reach of your GNSS system. Plus, it offers our exclusive web UI for remote monitoring and the new Trimble DL Android app for GNSS data logging. And the Trimble R8S maximizes productivity by easily integrating with the Trimble S-Series total stations and our innovative V10 imaging rover. For ultimate field efficiency, combine the Trimble R8S receiver with a Trimble controller and the intuitive Trimble Access Field software. Trust Trimble Business Center to help you edit, process, and adjust your data. It's the kind of solution you have come to expect from Trimble. We've been setting the standard in positioning technology for more than 30 years. See how we're raising the bar again with the Trimble R8S GNSS receiver.
Welcome back. The United States' tallest mountain, Denali, has got 10 feet shorter. Well, the mountain has not actually shrunk. Instead, using new and more accurate geospatial technology has allowed the U.S. Geological Survey to provide a precise elevation of the nation's natural treasure. Knowing that Denali is precisely 20,310 feet is important to Earth scientists, geographers, airplane pilots, and mountaineers. This data is much needed by the USGS for its three-dimensional elevation program. The National Geospatial Intelligence Agency (NGA) has mapped Earth's radioactivity. The Anti-Neutrino Global Map 2015 uses open-source geophysical datasets and publicly available information about subatomic particles to depict levels of radioactivity on the Earth. NGA and R&D scientist Sean Usman insisted the anti-neutrino maps represent the next generation of cartography. He believes they give important insights into our understanding about the interior of our planet. NGA has confirmed it will release periodic updates to the map. In another update from the agency, NGA has released unclassified information about the Arctic. Its website now hosts 3D digital elevation models of the Arctic's surface. The models have been derived from digital globes imagery. Apart from this, nautical charts, sailing directions, shapefiles, and infographics are also available on the website. This data will support land management, sustainable development, and scientific studies in the region. It will also help support domain-specific challenges faced by aviation, transportation, and defense sectors. Yesterday, we told you how rapidly the Earth was losing its green cover. And now, a study published in the journal Nature has put a number on the planet's tree population. The study used satellite imagery along with around 430,000 ground-based measurements of tree density and concluded that there are around 3.04 trillion trees on the Earth. That's about 400 trees for every person. Does that sound like a lot? It's not actually.
Thousands of years ago, before human civilization took hold, the Earth had almost twice as many trees as it does now. Most of Europe, for example, was one big forest. Groups all over the world are working on planting trees and restoring natural habitats. This new data will make their targets more accurate. And it will certainly change our fundamental understanding of our planet that we now know we share with 3.04 trillion trees.
The study also found that only 21.8% of tree population is found in temperate parts of the world, including the United States and Europe. That's all we have for you in GeoBytes today. Find us on www.geobiz.com and follow GeoBuiz on Twitter. Stay tuned for GeoBuiz exclusive. I was perplexed why the name human to the geospatial angle.
We have a lot of obviously formidable competitors in the mapping space.
The imagery goes back to the very beginning of GIS.
If we think about land, land is a key core to prosperity.
Thank you, Hugo, for speaking with the GeoBuiz and Geospatial world.
We are a UAV technology company, but we're primarily, the way that we like to say it is that we're just a data technology company that happens to have a drone.
Hello and welcome to GeoBuiz. Today we are talking to Jason Souci, Principal Geospatial Consultant with PrecisionHawk. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for joining us on GeoBuiz Exclusive.
My pleasure.
Okay. Tell us about PrecisionHawk. What is unique about it?
So we're taking a different industry approach. We are a UAV technology company, but we're primarily, the way that we like to say it is that we're just a data technology company that happens to have a drone. So we really focus on the data, not just from the collection standpoint, but really where the industry is going with it is for the analytics and the actionable intelligence, and that's where we live.
Okay, your mission statement says better answers faster.
Yes.
Right. So how are you achieving that?
Sure, a couple different ways. The first one is we can, depending on the drone getting there, we can deploy a lot faster than a manned aviation, or retask a satellite and get better resolution. But so that's a small portion of it. Really, it gets down to processing power, either in the cloud, locally on a local processing machine, or actually on board the aircraft. So we're partnered with Intel, and they are developing a custom board for us that will be multiple cores, a system on a chip that will allow us to process for a specific purpose. So fit for purpose is very appropriate to what we're talking about. It answers specific questions while we're still in the field, possibly even while the plane's still flying. That's the goal.
Okay, good. You're talking about your platform, the UAV platform. Are you also developing the sensors as only the...
Yes and no. So we have been asked by a few of our larger customers to develop specific sensors for their problems, but primarily we are consumers of sensor technology. Also, truth be told, we're also consumers of everyone else's UAV technology. So we're not just for our own platform, we're using everyone else's. Like I said, by next year, we're going to be integrated with all of the large UAV manufacturers today.
Okay, so it's not just about data collection, flying the drone and then collecting the data, but to be able to make some sense, some actionable information out of that data.
Yes,
for a specific
that's the goal.
Purpose. So how is PrecisionHawk achieving these targets, rather these goals for the users?
Sure. So we're taking a bottom-up and top-down approach. We listen to our customers. That's the idea. That's how you become successful in business. You don't build a system that no one's going to buy. We have asked all of our top customers, and they're all farming 500 companies, if they're agriculture or they're big oil and gas, and they're the top producers. So like they're the ones with the biggest problems. They told us the data points that they want, their specific pain points and their specific data points that will enhance their research, operations, science, that will accelerate their programs. Because right now they can't really trust some of the data that's coming in because it's laden with human error. So they need a systematic program that gets them the resolution that they need, that they can fly at their convenience, because it's not always something that'll be timed. If you're looking at precision agriculture, there may be, there's a little bit of a drought, so to be able to understand this particular trait in the crop, I need to fly in this very specific range. You can't do that with manned aviation, you can't do that with satellites. So that's how we're getting there. Like they gave us their big questions. We are partnering with universities, partnering with other commercial entities to have an ecosystem that will allow us to answer their questions is on their time frame.
Maybe a couple of examples on that, say for example in agriculture?
Sure, I've got tons, but one that I can think of in particular, we have a customer in Argentina, and they have a very specific use case and relationship with a big agricultural producer and concern. We were able to go down, and the specific use case was we're doing a lot of seed trials right now, because this technology is built. It's famously built for this. Like we can get down to millimeter levels resolution. We're looking at individual plants, and that's where they want to understand. So they want to see, like some of them, they're purposely they're purposely not watering. They're doing drought conditions. They're different hybrids, different seeds that they're testing, and really the temporal resolution is that was the selling point. It's like we need to be able to monitor this regardless of the clouds, right? Because a manned aircraft would likely have to deal with this sort of situation. A drone is way below the clouds. We don't, and we have enough illumination that we can get done what we need to get done. And then we're able to get that data, and it's very specific. So we have a number of algorithms that we've built that were very specific for each individual trial. And then what happens to that data is it got uploaded to the cloud, processed, and redelivered. And that's within just a few hours. So they at that point, they didn't even need the data in a few hours. So like, a couple days, maybe a week, maybe the end of the season, but it's causing a shift in the way that they're thinking, because they're used to that traditional, well, we'll get it later. they're now able to change the study on the fly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's not even monitoring at that point. It's just they're able to change study, make more, do more science. Like instead of laying out a research plan and then absolutely sticking to it because they don't have the
flexibility.
Yeah, they don't have the flexibility. So we're offering that flexibility, and the idea is that it saves them millions upon millions of dollars of having data that either comes back wrong, that they can't trust it. That was the other thing in this particular. We have a lot of landowners that they never see their land. Like they may own it there, but they live somewhere else. But they're actively making money here. The people that they send to be able to get them the information that they want to understand, like how much fertilizer are you using, what seed are you using, how much acres are you covering, all of those things, like they seem very simple, but they can't trust the data that's coming back because they don't know this person. They're just saying wink wink, nod nod, this is what you have, but they have no idea. So this is full transparency from end to end.
Has been your customer feedback with respect to the data from the imagery from the UAV platform vis-a-vis from the aerial platform?
So interestingly enough, this is still a concern in the UAV industry.
Yeah.
It is not perfect. It needs to be fit for the purpose. So we have people that are trying to do the wrong things, flying at the wrong altitudes. They have their own data. So it's really one of the interesting things. We have so I'll give you another example. We have one of our large customers that has 1 million images. They have 1 million images that we're taking from a different UAV platform. They want us to process those and create these same products. Well, that's potentially problematic because we weren't injected into the original part to be able to control. So our UAV, it develops its own flight path in the air. It does all of that. So when you plant it on the ground, you don't know what's going to happen in the air. You don't know what the winds are going to be like. You don't know what there's a lot of things that you just don't know until the plane is up in the air. And for manned aviation, they can obviously adapt. For UAVs, they cannot. So they have to have a system to be able to do that. It causes some problems. There may be some missed overlaps. I mean, I don't want to get too technical, but there may be some things that cause viewing geometry changes, some parallax. The subject matter may be, if it's tall, mature corn, you have to fly a slightly different flight pattern. So really, we're just learning lots of lessons now. Like there's lots of lessons that are being learned in the UAV industry across all vertical markets. So we're trying to get as deep as possible, but we're trying to increase the dirt breadth.
How has been the learning curve, and have there been a sense of standardization of all these aspects involved over a period of time?
We are working very closely to understand better standards. I mean, we have because all of us come from the remote sensing, the more traditional either manned aviation or satellite remote sensing. So we understand as far as the standards for products that go in. This is a brave new world. Like it is not the same type of information that we can gather. It's not even about resolutions. It's a completely different process, workflow, the way it's created. So we have to adapt. And I think that learning curve is it's still fairly steep, but I think it may start to plateau out as more and more missions are being flown. I think that's one of the things. There's just the number of missions you get under your belt, the more comfortable you are. It's how you become an expert in anything. So we're adapting very quickly, but we also have to work very closely with standards organizations, OGC, ASPRS. They have a strong voice, and the AUVSI, the unmanned aviation organization, they also have a stake in making sure that the industry as a whole is creating either good data, but that's actually not where they live. They're not on the data side at all. We are 100% on the data side. True. I almost don't care what drone it comes from, but it needs to be fit for purpose. That is a huge deal. Okay.
So what are the specific industry segments that you are targeting at this point?
Sure. The top three right now are agriculture. Obviously, that's the biggest. Followed very closely by insurance and oil and gas.
Okay, so what kind of applications you're looking at in the insurance segment?
Sure, the insurance segment, two different ones. One's slightly related to agriculture, but it's crop insurance. So working with larger crop insurance companies to, once there's a claim, to validate, to go in the field, because currently they walk around whatever, if it's a flooded field, they just walk around with a GPS, and it takes a lot of time and it's very inaccurate, and it causes problems. They can't just walk in someone's field, and it could be a problem. So we're trying to develop an enterprise system where they just get the data points into their claim system. So they don't necessarily need the imagery, they don't necessarily need a shapefile, they just get a data point. So, and that's really what a lot of the customers that I found are looking for. They all, interoperability as far as data, they don't want to store data, they don't want to have platforms, they just need an answer. So how that scales is what we're focused on.
And but the turnaround time is pretty quick.
Yeah, we try to get it as quick as possible, as close to 24 hours as possible. The other side of insurance, we're working with USAA, and there's many other, this is one example, but they want to do post-disaster risk assessment, and actually post-disaster assessment for claims, because what they want to do is they want to be able to deploy more efficiently. They want to be able to triage quickly, to know where they need to go. If the home is a total loss, well, if it's a total loss, let's just cut them a check. And they can get on the contractor wait list way before their neighbors. So it's a huge benefit to their consumers. As a USA member, I appreciate that. So interestingly enough, there's many, many more use cases, but those are just a few examples.
Okay, and I see that PrecisionHawk is also into developing apps for its customers.
Yes.
So
yes.
Can you share some more details about it?
Sure. So we're actually really lucky in that we're partnered with a Pune-based firm. It's our sister company called Webinize Labs, and it's a group of about 150 software developers, primarily Java, Ruby on Rails, and other type integrators, PHP, and they develop so the interesting thing is they talk about how data needs to be visualized to be meaningful. We have fantastic designers that are not geospatial technologists, but I think that's a good thing, but they know how to visualize data. And all we do is provide the inputs, and then there are dashboards that come up, but I believe we have 5 software applications right now. We're trying to build them down, boil them down to fewer and fewer applications. Like we have a flight planner application, a data bridge, in-field application, an upload tool. We're trying right now, very quickly, we're going to consolidate them all into one tool, and it can run on anything. It can run on a phone, it can run on a tablet, it can run on a very beefy computer. But the idea is that most of it will be an enterprise scaled system. We're developing an API so we can plug directly into My John Deere, and like for agriculture, or directly into USA's claim system or ADM's claim system. There's just a lot of value in being able to plug directly in to the user's information system. So we're spending a lot of time on that.
Are you also trying to look at providing the UAV generated data as a service?
Yes, so we also have a servicing organization. We didn't think we were going to get into the servicing business, but like I said, surprisingly enough, there's enough of our users that either they don't want to buy drones yet, and it's a proof of concept, and they just want to see the data. So we have a number of servicing teams and relationships internationally with people that are servicing, and we just get the data. That's all we care about, is we just get the data. But servicing is becoming one of the largest opportunities that we have available today. Next year that might change. They may decide they want to buy 1,000 planes, or they may have their own. But for now, when it's in the proof of concept stage, and these are small projects, big projects, they're kind of all over the place, but they just want to demonstrate. Well, most people now, they're trying to move from proof of concept to a basic operational framework, and before they push it to full production. So, because these are big business problems that they're trying to solve. It's not a traditional geospatial project as I'm familiar with, as I'm used to.
True. Okay. So, in terms of your operations, how extent are you operating across the world?
So we've been operating in Canada under an SFOC for a decade. That's where the company was started, in Toronto. We've been operating under a Section 333 exemption, and luckily we have a very close relationship with the FAA. We're one of the 3 companies that are part of the FAA Pathfinder program, along with Burlington Northern and Santa Fe Railroad, and there's another media company that's involved as well. I think it was Time Warner. But we PrecisionHawk, we are the extended line of sight partner. So we have a very close relationship with the FAA, and we're trying to make sure that we are able to fly. Here in the United States, we have no problems getting almost 24-hour turnaround on our authorizations to fly. If we need to fly above 400 feet or 200 feet, usually we don't, but if we do, that's usually turned very quick. We're currently operating in Latin America, Australia, New Zealand, India. We have offices popping up all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice. But mainly it's a lot of joint ventures and partnerships and collaborations. It's interesting. Like I said, it's going to be more about, I believe, it's going to be less about our specific platform. And my goal is to be platform agnostic and really make use of the massive amounts of data that's out there.
Okay. How do you see this industry panning out in the next, I wouldn't go in the long term, but 3 years?
Sure, 3 years. I think you're going to see a drastic decrease in the price of the equipment and the software. I think you're going to see a lot more partnerships and associations related to the data and standards and metadata and interoperability. Those things are going to become more of a big deal in the next 3 years, just because the biggest win for the UAV industry is to be able to plug into everybody else's system.
Sure.
And without being able to plug in, really we have nothing. So we need to be able to do that. So that's going to be one of the biggest things. You're going to see more sensors. There's going to be more physical sensors. There's going to be more. The sizes of the UAVs are going to vary. You're going to see them all over the place. There's going to be really big ones that are solar powered, really small ones that'll fit in your hand. That'll be very purpose built. So I mean, it's an exciting time. Like the next 3 years are going to be very telling. There's going to be a lot of winners in the next 3 years. That's for sure. And we're excited to see where it goes.
Okay, fantastic. So the next 3 years are going to be more exciting times for PrecisionHawk as well.
Absolutely.
And I wish you all the best for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The topic of the panel discussion today we have chosen, which is very, very important topic, is the value chain of geospatial industry, where small and medium enterprises fits in, and what is their value in the overall geospatial ecosystem. It's a very valuable part of this industry and kind of middle and bottom of the pyramid of geospatial industry. Connecting the users, and especially at the grassroots level, the users of geospatial industry are being primarily served by the small and medium businesses. Well, they form a very interesting and very critical component of the entire pyramid of the geospatial industry, wherein they bring in the value in different forms at different levels, serving the users in adopting the technologies and making them work their job better. Well, there are different kind of small and medium enterprises, right from a very small number of companies at a bottom of the pyramid, where bringing innovation, bringing technology adoption, and connecting the entire ecosystem. Looking at the technology, multinational companies, which brings a lot of technology, and then you see the link of small and medium enterprises, and that's at the bottom you see the users. So ultimately the technology has to reach to users through the small and medium enterprises. That's where they form a very, very important connect of the whole ecosystem and whole value chain. That's the topic of our discussions today. Moving further, there are different types of small and business enterprises, and When you look at those enterprises, you see that those enterprises are being created or originated for different purposes. We can look at some of the small and medium enterprises as they are intending to develop technology to build products for principal companies that operate on a variety of geospatial and business platforms. They also create products to suit customer needs. Then you have solution small and medium enterprises, which are re-engineering, adding value and customizing products, solutions to the principal companies to suit users' needs. That's where they customize a lot of technology to make it workable for the users. And then there are service companies which are involved into digitization, data collection, processing, and surveying things, which is primarily collecting information, which is again a key component of the whole value chain of the geospatial industry. Then you have a trading SMEs, which are primarily focused on distributorship or resellership of the products, solutions, or the partner companies. So that's how different kind of small and medium enterprises are being organized. So since they are part of a very interesting ecosystem, we have tried to also bring in some of the views of the small and medium enterprises. How do they see their role into the whole ecosystem? So looking at a company which is in Singapore, which is GPS Lands, what they say is that SMEs are working on acquiring as much knowledge and skills as they can, so that even if they lose certain products or if they have to align themselves with a new technology partner, they can adapt quickly and survive. Another view which comes from Philippines, which looks like that technology majors are setting up their own infrastructure in emerging economies. This condition is contradicting the ideal industry pyramid and disregarding their rights and privileges. So you can see that when you talk of ecosystem, you will see this play come in more often. That what is the role of each one of us and how do we see and respect each other's territory. Moving on, I also have few views from the principal companies, like Mladen Stojic, president of Hexagon Geospatial, said, principal technology companies will clearly leverage on the capabilities of small and medium enterprises, integrate technologies into their own core platforms, and positively establish win-win business model with the small and medium enterprises. And this view has also been further strengthened by Bryn Fosberg, who has been the vice president of Trimble. He says that the SMEs are the heartbeat of relationship with our mutual customers because they live and breathe customers' daily challenges. In fact, this view is very strongly endorsed by several principal companies, as they believe that the small and medium enterprises are going forward with the customers and they are the key component of this relationship. In fact, more on this is also a fact that we keep on talking about the challenges which we have with regard to the professionals, with regard to the capacities in this industry, and this is the small and medium enterprises who actually are the first intakers of the professionals. They are the ones who adopt them, they are the ones who train them, and they are the ones who nurture them for future development. So to discuss this topic, we have three important guests today, and they represent very different kind of small and medium business houses. On my extreme left is Joel Campbell, who is the vice president of Avineon, which is a medium enterprise, which is a larger company, at the higher end of small and medium enterprises. On my left is Jack Pellicci, who is the president of Lancer Information Systems, and Jack has also been associated with Intergraph. He has been the president of Intergraph Federal company in US and has been involved with the principal companies. So he brings a combination of small business as well as the principal companies. On my right is Leonardo, who is the CEO of HumanGeo. HumanGeo is a very creative and new player on the block, and it's a small business, but at the same time brings a lot of innovation into the whole ecosystem. So let's have a discussion with these three important guests this afternoon. To begin with, I would like to go to Leonardo, and would like to hear from you, how do you see that your company adds value in terms of bringing innovation as part of Geospatial Hub company?
Well, thank you, Sanjay. Glad to be here today. Happy to talk about that and talk about some trends that I'm seeing for small businesses, not only in the defense space but also in the commercial space. And while there's a lot of trends around geospatial today, I think looking at 4 areas and then how small businesses like HumanGeo are in those spaces are making a difference. And one of those, clearly the top one, is hyper-local intelligence, location intelligence. And that's everything around data fidelity to points of interest to using social media, all kinds of ways, both commercially all the way to law enforcement. The second point I think small businesses like HumanGeo are doing is mobile application development. And as we see it every day, there's companies out there, most of the civilized world knows about Uber, but there's smaller companies doing the same thing like Ride Scout, developing apps to help humankind and in a way profit. And then finally, 2 more points on this. Geo in the cloud, I call it. That's just the movement to the big data move to get geospatial and all the new sensors and data into the cloud. That's helping services companies in the SME model you showed, but it's also helping companies build analytics on top of that. And then finally, sort of the everyday use of geospatial data that's coming from crowdsourcing and creating new opportunities. So 2 things I see for user trends that are important to small companies like HumanGeo. One is users do not want to have tools that are too complex. They want everything to be plug and play today. And that's not just millennials, that's everybody. And then ultimately, customers do not want that big upfront cost today. And so doing things at HumanGeo and other companies like us, building applications in the web, putting them up on things like Amazon Web Services, creates a lower cost front, creates a application on demand, lets us put things like our HumanGeo capability called Oxbow on Amazon, so anybody can download it at any time and pull map tile servers within 10 minutes without any hassles. That would include the intelligence community and defense community as well as the commercial space.
Oh, that's great. Actually, what you said is that small businesses are adding value in terms of creating apps, making user interfaces, making users' life much easier because they don't need any complicated systems. And that's where the industry trend is also heading towards, where you see this industry is moving from being a product-centric to a solution-centric industry.
So Sanjay, if I could just add one more point to this, that I think to dovetail on what you just said there, and that would be, I see it like in a colloquial way. There's 3 ways that I see this. One is there's companies focus on the old GIS terms of people, places, and things, but they're creating value in 3 ways. So there's a group creating value in what I call the volunteer infrastructure. That's the whole crowdsourcing. That's everything from OpenStreetMaps to Wikipedia, doing it for all of mankind. Things like MapStory and the American Geographical Society, pushing those types of things. Then you have the people making money with the data from the volunteer infrastructure. That's, in our community, that's companies from Mapbox to Ride Scout to service companies like HumanGeo. And then finally, I think you have people making money building off points 1 and 2 that I just outlined, creating the volunteer infrastructure and then making money off of that by building their own, grabbing that open source data and information and then building applications around crowdsourcing in some cases, but not necessarily, building apps using those points that I outlined earlier, those 4 key points, and creating a lot of value with proprietary models. A little bit like what the CEO of Trimble had said.
Well, definitely making money and sustaining the small businesses and enabling them move forward and creating more value for the industry is very, very critical. And I'll come back to that point in later part of the discussions. And then moving back to Joel, as you see that the industry is moving from product-centric to solution-centric. And the organizations like Avineon has a lot of role to play in this regard by producing quality solutions, as well as also helping the small businesses as a part of the ecosystem. Because so where do you see the role of a company like Avineon into the whole ecosystem of geospatial industry, and especially from the point of view of connecting them from the principal companies to the smaller companies?
Yeah, it's a great point, Sanjay. And before I get started, thanks for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity. But Avineon sits in an interesting space because we are not a small business. We're more of a medium business. But in most worlds, we compete with large businesses who have many more resources and many more capabilities perhaps than we have. So we get to see a little bit of both sides. And what I find is that we're pretty well positioned to leverage the kind of services and expertise we have and be the bench, if you will, for a small business who may have good technology, have innovated some good applications or some good solutions that they may be growing faster than they can keep up with, and they need a good solid partner who has resources that they can use to bring to bear on customer requirements, to deliver those solutions. And so we find that we fill a void there for many small businesses. We have partnerships with small businesses who've innovated products that are pure commercial off-the-shelf products, where we take those and we build some expertise around them and become an implementation arm. But also we find that companies that have just solutions of some sort or another, we're able to add some value to them and their customers. And then at the same time, by having those types of relationships, we're not only helping bridge that gap between the small and medium, but it also gives us an opportunity to differentiate ourselves from the big system integrators, if you will, or the big services providers, because we can now build sort of a practice around some area of speciality that perhaps they don't have.
Great. Thanks for your inputs with regard to positioning your company as someone which is a kind of link between several small businesses and the big businesses as well, because you bring in you compete with some of the big businesses at some places, and you work with the small businesses to deliver your solutions and services. Moving on to Jack. Jack, you bring a plethora of experience and knowledge in this industry. You've been associated with this industry for probably 3 to 4 decades, if I'm not wrong, in different capacities, as a user and then the technology provider, and now have created a new company which is in a small business hub. How do you see the overall framework of relationships in terms of identifying the role of small businesses into the whole ecosystem of the industry, as well as looking at the policy mechanisms of the several governments as a responsibility to encourage the small businesses because they form the first entry for several users as well as the professionals?
Well, thank you, Sanjay, for inviting me here today. And from the perspective that I look at it, I was at a large company, a very large company, Oracle, for 15 years. I was with Intergraph as CEO of the government business for 7 years, and decided about 3 years ago that I wasn't ready to fully retire. So I started a service-disabled, veteran-owned hub zone company. And it's been a great experience. It's a tough experience. And the leveraging companies, like Joel's as a medium company, or leveraging some of the other companies. And I go back to your slide that you put up there right at the beginning. And I'm partially a reseller, I'm partially a solutions provider, I'm partially a technology provider, and but focusing on bringing value to the customer is my primary issue. And you mentioned the policy part of this, and that's very important, because the term SME, is a term that's used very generally, and it's not used in the U.S. as much as it's used in Europe and other places. But a small business, and our Small Business Administration writes all the laws for us and frameworks for the small businesses. So as a provider of technology, as a provider of being able to resell very quickly, with the regulations being what they are in the U.S. government, I work with larger companies, I work with integrators, and they use me as a vehicle to get things done fairly quickly, but also to bring value to them. And I'm right now looking at how do I bring this company from the stage we're at now and to move it like Al's done with his company. Al was recently acquired, and Joel's been in big companies too, and now in a medium company. So I think we provide value to them, but also what we really have to look at is some of the policies that I see existing, especially in the United States, in terms of, everybody has a requirement. The customers have a requirement in the government to use small businesses, and they get quotas. And those quotas are, important to them to meet, and they're watched very carefully. And the VA, the Veterans Administration for the service disabled companies, they play a similar role in handling with the VA process. But more importantly, when I deal with larger companies or even medium-sized companies, but more the larger companies, they have requirements to create small business plans. And those small business plans outline how they're going to use the small business. And sometimes, the accountability on that, it's been written up a lot. I don't have any specific issues I'm going to mention, but the bigger companies, when you're in there working with them, and then finally when the contract is awarded, sometimes what you end up with in the way of work share is not what you thought you were going to get. So what's happening now in NGA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, they're working that now very hard, and some new people down there are really holding the large companies' feet to the fire to make sure that the small business who work so hard and have the innovation and have the capabilities to bring that in. And I would mention one other point, and that is that right now as a small business and trying to work in the geospatial arena, one of the big challenges is the availability of talent. And geospatial is growing so fast. When I started working, I came out of the Army, and I saw how GPS was used in Desert Storm. I saw the advantages of geospatial, and so when I worked on that, actually looking at how that could be leveraged and make, as Al said, things more simpler. Geospatially enable a database, geospatially enable an enterprise. It's not just about GIS. It's about a lot of the things that we all do every day, but also having the availability of the right people. And when I go to companies and they want me to take on a project because I am what I am and can get the contract through more expeditiously, and then provide people to me, or I have to go to a provider of resources, because I cannot afford at the stage I'm at to keep a bunch of geospatial resources on the bench, as they say.
So Joel, you'd like to add on something on
Yeah,
this part?
what I was going to say, and it's an interesting, all the points that Jack's make are very interesting. Avineon is a global company, and I do business all across North America, and the one thing that we find consistently is that customers want to deal with someone locally. And so that's where we find our participation with small businesses in trying to find somebody local who can work with us and help deliver solutions to their customers, to our customers and or their customers. And I think that's why it's extremely important that there are policies in place to promote and encourage those small businesses, not just in the federal space, which there's a lot of through various mechanisms with the Small Business Administration, but all across the country, if not the world, so that we can be that hyper-local sort of service provider and back up those small companies with the kind of bench that we can offer. I think it's just an important thing. And then it speaks also then to the need for more and more talent to fill those kinds of things.
I think local sensitivity is very important aspect which is coming up in this discussion, and then of course at the county level, several small businesses are addressing the users at the county level, and the policy is not just limited at the federal level, but the policy conducive environment goes down to the county level. What do you think about this, Leonardo? That?
Well, that's an interesting thought. I mean, in Virginia, in particular, the governor, I've been to a few meetings with the governor, really pushing innovation down through the state and to the county and pushing opportunities. I've seen the national senators, Virginia, trying to do the same thing. So I see a big push statewide. We operate out of Arlington, and Arlington is, I think, is one of the best cities in America, and its economic council is really trying to push innovation, not only over in Crystal City, which has had a big change, but also, Arlington as a whole, establishing a tech center, trying to provide tax breaks and incentives for growth, and I think they're doing a great job.
Oh, very nice to hear that Arlington is doing great job in terms of supporting the local companies. So moving back to the sustainability aspect of this whole business, where we talked about one of the possibility of bringing small and medium enterprises is to design them, create value for getting integrated or acquired by the large businesses. So when we look at Joel, back to you, is that what are the considerations you have in mind when you look at expanding our capacities in terms of the technology adoption, and do you see that the large companies look at the small businesses as a kind of entry point for bringing innovation?
Typically, yes. I think the way that we look at it is, some of our partners provide products and capabilities that extend our reach. I think one of the things you can always look at and consider is that a large business, a technology platform, they have a customer set that is theirs and is typically large like they are. And then a small business comes around, and one of the things that's really valuable to them is access to those customers. And so finding that relationship where you can take a product or service from a small business and leverage your customers, or they can leverage your customers to get that out, I think is one of the values in that. And one of the great things about sort of looking at those kinds of opportunities is how you can bring these innovative things to a larger body of people. We have thousands of customers, and there may be new technologies, new capabilities that they don't even know about, and because we are working with small businesses and partnering with providers, we can start to expose those things to other customers that they wouldn't otherwise be able to expose them to.
Oh, great.
Can I dovetail on Joe's comment there?
Oh, yeah, please.
Oh, thank you. So, we just got acquired by the Rating Group in July, so I'm still fresh off the heels of that, and long negotiation to get there, but it was the right organization for us. It gave us depth going forward. It's a band of a bunch of great companies, and headed up by Larry Hill, who has a lot of experience in the industry. One thing what I really wanted to dovetail on, though, is how do you get acquired? And the original question you were throwing out, I think it's everything you said, as well as some intangibles, and that is sort of being known, liked, and trusted. If you have a certain baseline of capability and technology, then that you certainly have to start with that, or certain package of services that fits a larger company's needs. But I think it also comes down to how did you get known? Did you get known? Are you reasonably liked? I mean, you don't have to be loved, and and really one of the fundamental things: are you trusted? And that goes from everything from your capabilities and your services and how you act and operate. So, I think there's some intangibles that helped us along the way and helped us get acquired by a great company, maybe a little bit earlier than we had expected.
Well, this proves the point that the small businesses are just not there to provide service, but also provide a lot of technology innovation to the large companies. Moving further, one of the topics which is very important here when we talk about small and medium business enterprises is the human resources. And this industry as a industry itself is facing challenges in terms of continuous inflow of human resources to serve the technology uses or adoption or things like that. So coming back to you, Jack, there are certain societies, educational institutions like GITA, ASPRS, OGC, and many more organizations at the county level or federal level in this country. Where do you see the role of these professional societies and academic institutions? Are they working in close collaboration with the small and medium businesses to understand the requirement of the human resources, as well as train or educate those people to meet the requirements of the companies?
Yes, they do. And using OGC, Open Geospatial Consortium, both Sanjay and I are on the board. of that particular consortium, and then using USGIF, the Geospatial Intelligence Foundation. I've worked with both of those, and in terms of USGIF, they're working on, they have a small business focus right now.
Oh, great.
And their CEO is trying to grow that in a way, but he understands that they need more talent. But also the outreach program at USGIF is doing a great job of seeding and the technologies that some of the companies have, but also certifying many of the universities. And as you know, Esri, Intergraph, many of the big companies that got started in the geospatial business were big successes because they played very closely with the institutions, the academic institutions. And right now, if I look at USGIF, and I talked to them the other day, and they have almost 40% of their members are small businesses.
That's great.
And then the other one, OGC, has about 36%. And OGC doesn't have, where OGC brings the small companies in is in the test beds. I'll just use one example. You know, Al just talked about being acquired, and when I was looking at, I went to one of the test beds just to check it out as a board member, you know, to see what was going on. Mm-hmm. And a small company there, a company by the name of Cloudant, was doing a lot of work, you know, and IBM was involved in that as a big company. Well, it turns out that about a year and a half later, after that was over, Cloudant was bought by IBM. So there's a lot of interaction in those particular areas.
I think, you know, the role and value of geospatial small businesses is much more than what it is anticipated by common man or several of the stakeholders. We'd like to give a final comment, Joel, before we close this panel.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, to your point of small businesses and their importance, if you looked at the geospatial industry in its purest form, sort of globally, I think you can start to stratify businesses by their annual revenues. And I think, you know, I've been around for a couple of decades, not as long as Jack, but what I've seen is there hasn't been a lot of change. There's 2 or 3 really large organizations, technology providers at the top, the Esris, the Intergraphs, the Bentleys, the Oracles perhaps, Autodesk. There are some sort of mid-tier players that tend to have been roll-ups of smaller businesses, like the Textron Group for what they've done, what the Radiant Group is now trying to do. There are others, Schneider in the utility space, et cetera. But by and large, the vast majority of companies in the geospatial community are sort of, I would say, $10 million or less a year in business, right? They're very, you know, what we would consider in the broader world, in the Facebook world, they're really small businesses. But there's an awful lot of them, and they really are the engine that makes the industry work, because without them, you know, there's just not enough at the top to make anything worthwhile.
In fact, that's a very excellent point which you brought forward, that they are the engine of the whole industry. Yeah. Because, you know, that's where, you know, I've been studying a little bit about Europe, and you see that 92% of the companies in Europe are small businesses which are less than 10 people in the companies. And those less than 10 people companies are so focused at a particular county or a particular small, you know, user organization, and trying to do whatever they can do for that user organization and bring in the technology from all the possible sources and address that point.
Can I make one point? Comment on just what Joel said and what you just said, and it's the way that that's available to companies like mine now, and many companies have used it. It's called mentor protege. Some of you have probably heard that. And you know, small companies look for mentors for the large companies, whether they're integrators or, you know, ones that aren't quite the integrator size. But then becoming a protege and working together, they guide you along. So I'm negotiating with a couple of companies now to start a mentor protege program where they will mentor me and my company, and I will be the protege who will be a lot more successful.
Well, thank you very much, to our panelists. And as we, as a group, are very, very clearly indicating that the role and value of small and medium businesses is very, very critical, especially as the fabric of this industry is changing. Geospatial is reaching out to almost every walk of life, and solution and making value out of this whole information is the key. And in that's where these companies are the ones who are actually addressing and tapping the last mile or last the chain of the pyramid of the whole cycle. And you find that this is not only a service provider, this is not only a trading partner, but it is also a source of a lot of innovation in terms of apps, in terms of technologies, in terms of bringing the local cultural requirements of the users. And that kind of feedback goes back to the large companies, and they use that as a kind of instrument in reforming or evolving their products and strategies at some later stage. And also this brings a very, very critical component for the medium and larger solution companies or system integration companies where they can't do without this whole group. And almost 75 to 80% of the businesses are small and medium in nature. I would say the small businesses are about 75% of the whole ecosystem, and about 10 to 15% is the medium and large businesses. And then you talk of the technology companies. So we cannot ignore the role of this this group, because empowerment, encouragement, and right kind of recognition is very, very critical for success of geospatial industry. With this note, I would like to thank my panelists for joining us in this studio and sharing their views and perspectives. Thank you very much, and you have a good day.